can come to the line of a sequence and be as boring as you want to be. He'll still chase you around. But if you haven't put in the effort ahead of time, you know, all this crazy jumping around, looking like an idiot effort, it's much harder to keep them focused later. Most of the time, not always, but it's good to hedge your bets. Yeah, I would be careful sequencing with him, and I'd be careful weeding with him, and I would also probably, I'd do some wing wraps with him, like that cone stuff, but I probably wouldn't do too much, just because he's so tall. Those long bows are really long.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the incidence of OCD is in these guys, but they've got to be growing fast.
It's usually hips anyhow.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's probably not going to muscle up until he's closer to 2, I would guess. So I would just be careful with joints and spine, because he's really long limbed and he's a male. You really don't want a ton of torque on that body. Not until he's a little more well assembled. I mean, he's only partially put together at the moment. I'm sure his growth plates are nowhere near close. So I would be careful with the repetitive wrapping and stuff like that. I mean, roughhousing, tumbling around, falling on the ground, that stuff seems to be fine. It's just a repetitive torque that seems to be rough on the bodies. And the reason I mention it again is that I'm pretty sure with very little effort you will get him crazy to chase after you, because he's pretty close to that already. He's pretty engaged, I'd say. As long as you keep the level up for short periods of time. So if he's in a class and you're wanting to work on this stuff, if everybody else's turn is 2 minutes long, set your timer to 30 seconds and go twice as many times.
He's not in a class. I teach, so I just take him out after. It's only 2 hours in a straight, and I take him out and play for 5-10 minutes and I'm out.
Okay.
Too long.
Yeah. Even that might be a little bit too long.
Okay.
Short and frequent is usually better. Because again, if you're training him for sprinting, not marathoning, you want him to get up fast, stay up for a few minutes, and then come down. An agility run is only, a novice jumper's run is like 15 seconds. And then they're done. It's over. And he's going to be pretty fast. The other thing I would be doing with him now would be a lot of proprioception and body awareness type stuff.
Backing up.
Yep. Walking across a narrow plank that's slightly elevated on the ground, turning a little circle maybe on a plank that's elevated above the ground, because he's got a pretty high center of gravity. At any time those dogs become uncertain, they hunker down. And if a big dog hunkers down and widens their stance, and if their stance is wider than 12 inches, they won't fit on a dog walk or a seesaw. So he needs to be comfortable staying tall and narrow on those planks. Yeah, and you might also work on teaching him to lie down on an elevated plank so that as he runs over the seesaw, he'll lie down at the end. Because again, he's so tall that if he stands up, when he gets to the end, he's just going to get kicked off. So because he's pretty lanky, I would make sure you address the coordination stuff as part of your training. Yeah. Because you want him to be fast, but you also want him to be neat with his feet.
Right.
And if a dog that size is fast, an AKC course is tight.
Yes,
So he needs to be neat with his feet. He needs to be able to spring up at late notice. Yeah.
You also suggest a lot of turning on the flat, just so he gets his flexibility or tweaks to his airport effect.
I do a lot of turning on the flat with youngsters, but slow. I don't like whipping them around repeatedly quickly, especially the boys, because they just don't seem put together as quickly. If it's a little itty girl, maybe, but I tend not to obsess on that stuff, just because I'm a little paranoid. I want him to make it to adulthood without being injured, and also it seems to come together anyways without doing that stuff. I also want him to sit under my feet at a cafe table. That kind of stuff as well. I want to take him out, like you might want to take him out for meet the breed stuff. Like that kind of stuff. And the window closes on that at some point. The socialization stuff. Yeah. Okay. For stars.